All right, everybody. The webinar will now begin. I'm the presenter. My name is Calvin. I'm the CEO of Project Thunder. Just wanted to let you know that this webinar is probably be about 37 minutes long. Today's topic is e-commerce merchandising using NextOpia. This is primarily for BigCommerce shop owners, or if you have a comparable SaaS-based e-commerce platform, that would also be a good fit. Merchandising using some tools like NextOpia, typically folks who have existing traffic would typically benefit from these sorts of tools more than if you don't have a lot of traffic on your website yet. Also, if you only have one product that you sell, having the merchandising tools with the search capabilities may not offer as much value. So if you have traffic on your website and you have a fair number of products in your catalog, then using these merchandising tools will be very beneficial. So by the end of the webinar, we're aiming that you'll understand the tools that are available in this suite and how you could see a conversion increase between 1% and 4%. My background in merchandising goes back, Alex and I, who co-founded this company, we used to build a lot of e-commerce websites on a platform called Media Chase, ECF, and we were approached in 2007 by a company called cheapvitamins.com, and they had already selected the software that they wanted to use. And as great as having cross-sell and things like that in the shopping cart are, they're not terribly helpful compared to some of the merchandising capabilities. And if you haven't looked into these types of things, as I explain them, I'll try to, you have to think a little bit out of the box and think about the salesmanship that goes into selling your products online. And although I am not a salesman, I am a programmer. I have had a great privilege of working with a lot of very great merchandisers, marketing people, and salespeople. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself in a little bit. So I know that everyone's time is very valuable, and I hope that you can get all the way through the presentation with us. So I'm doing a little contest, and what I do is at the end, I will give you guys my email address, and I just got a new American Express card that I've been wanting to try out. So what I wanted to do is anybody can email me at the end of the presentation, and if you're selected and you have an item on your website for $50 or less, I will buy it, and I will also Twitter about it. This is what it kind of looks like. We did one with these folks at Safety Store, and they were nice, and they customized it for us and put our name on there. It is a webinar, so there is a special offer at the end, which I'll get into. But first, let's get into some content. So advertising moves people towards goods. Merchandising moves goods towards people. So this is some quotes that I found online to kind of help understand what is merchandising. Here's another one. The merchandising is where the real profits are made. So if you throw up a basic e-commerce website and you already have a fair amount of sales and you have an okay conversion, now you're really, when you really need to get things dialed in, this is the point where you have a little bit of time to invest in some analytics and actually looking at the details of your website so that you can begin to immediately benefit from merchandising strategies. Now, the other thing is that if you don't have time to do a lot of that, people still get a benefit because there's some auto merchandising, automatic, if you will, that happen through the NextOpia that allow you to let it do some merchandising on your behalf. Now, that works really well, and a lot of clients do sort of just let it go on autopilot, but to really get the full benefit, that's where we really want to get into all of the details. So I know a lot of folks here are with BigCommerce, as BigCommerce and NextOpia, both of which we're partners with, put on an event together. I think this was in Toronto. So I just wanted to put up some tweets. So if you guys are not following NextOpia, you can follow them on Twitter at NextOpia. You can also follow BigCommerce if you're not already at BigCommerce. All right, guys, I told you I would tell you a little bit about myself. You can feel free to follow me at Calvin Luttrell on Twitter. I started my software career, if you will, at Goldmine Software. If you haven't heard of it, it was a sort of a premier CRM solution in the sort of late 90s. While I worked there, it was sort of, I was very young. I was hired at 19. I was the youngest person in the company at the time. I was super intimidated by everyone, but the company really was fantastic, and they really nurtured people. And so in no time, they had me training people, certifying people, developing training materials, doing programming for tools, and also mentoring and grooming other people. And while I was there, I also received a whole lot of training, not just in the technology side, because I could talk about tech stuff forever because I'm a programmer, but I also received a lot of sales training because Goldmine inherently was a sales tool, and we built tools to support sales folks. When I was at 1-800-Dentist, probably I would say around 2002, we basically, this is right around the time that .NET came out. If you're not familiar, it's the programming language. So we basically worked with them, and this is where I began to start to learn about what conversion meant, because I made, the tech guy comes in, he sees he got a couple of leaky pipes, he tightens them up, and all of a sudden you double the conversion, meaning you just doubled the amount of the money the company was making with this website. So I didn't quite appreciate at the time what we had achieved, but by making some very small adjustments, the company really benefited. And we started to notice, because all of a sudden everybody in the department got new 21-inch monitors. Everybody in the department got double paychecks that week, or whatever the benefit was. So as we started to make these changes, we started to see all of a sudden the bosses are bragging about us. All of a sudden we're important. And so, you start to put 2 and 2 together, you start to figure it out. And we did some other things for them as well while I worked there. So at Project Thunder, for the last 10 years, I've been working with e-commerce clients. I've been fielding phone calls with e-commerce shop owners. I've heard all sorts of horror stories. I've heard all sorts of great success stories. And as we tend to work with clients, we really consider ourselves kind of part of the family, and vice versa. And people tend to stick with us for a while. Our average retention is about 7 years. That we work with clients, and a lot of times it's, the way we work with clients is we try to make small iterative changes. So like implementing NextOpia on your website would be an example of a small iterative change, as opposed to trying to do something really big all at once that's kind of a drain on everyone. Improve sales through merchandising strategies. Absolutely, merchandising is a big part of how you succeed online. If you just do the bare minimum, if you would break even if you're lucky. And if you are breaking even at this point and you're really trying to take it to the next level, merchandising is a really great strategy to implement. We've done a lot of other things with clients, and we've had a lot of success stories. If anybody would like to email me at the end, I would be happy to walk you through all of our success stories in a more private setting. And we can start to talk about if you're interested in working with us. But for now, I'm just going to get into the content here and talk about why merchandising matters. If you recognize this thing, if you've ever had a night where you couldn't sleep and were watching those infomercials that come on late at night, it uses a sales strategy I would call the pitchman. It slices, it dices. They used to have catchy slogans. This guy here, the Ronco Showtime Rotisserie, you set it and forget it. You probably ever heard that. Malcolm Gladwell, who writes a lot of really interesting books about kind of like the human psyche and how people, engage with advertisers and things like that, talked about Ronco as a product. This guy basically invented this thing in his kitchen, sent his chauffeur to the local grocery store to pick up some chickens, and without having an office or a staff or anything, basically designed, patented, and sold $1 billion worth of chicken cooking stuff. That's pretty impressive. He didn't have to send anyone to the moon. It was pretty straightforward. It cooks chickens, and it does it very well, right? I guess. So, and the point behind that is that you don't necessarily have to, do something super complicated or disrupt the market. Sometimes it's just really about good merchandising, and what they did with their TV ads was good merchandising. I have a little video in here too, and if you guys are interested in this presentation, I'd be happy to send a link so you can watch it. It's a responsive design presentation, so you can actually watch it on your cell phone. So we worked with this, I mentioned Mercado. Mercado was a company, again, around 2007. They were a premier outfit for doing merchandising on e-commerce with Macy's and Office Depot and a lot of these big companies that they were working with. Victoria's Secret, I believe, was one. But around the time, if you guys remember, when the time the crisis kicked in, the financial crisis in 2008, a lot of these companies started to get a little shaky. And as a result, Mercado kind of, I would guess they would say they went out of business. I don't know how you'd put it exactly, but they were acquired sort of at the last minute by, I believe, Omniture picked them up. And then Omniture was then picked up by Adobe. Now, Adobe still kind of has this merchandising product, but I think they kind of threw it out there, hoping to maybe keep on to some of the high end. And then it just kind of disappeared. So they never really did anything with it. You can search for it online, Adobe merchandising. You can see it's out there, but they're not really pushing it at this point. It was a really great product. The problem with it, though, is the $4,000 a month. And you can imagine how difficult it is if I'm asking you for not only money to implement it onto your website, but now I'm asking you for $4,000 a month and fees to pay for the service. And that was the low end product. That was the low cost solution. So it was a very difficult sale. We only sold a couple of them. We did cheapvitamins.com and internetlumber.com. Now these are sites that were doing, about $250,000 a month in sales. So that's sort of how they would justify that. But at the same time, I had clients calling me saying, Calvin, I want you to implement NextOpia on my website. And I said, interesting. So I took a look at it. Keeping in mind that, especially at the time when they first came out, the product was only like $1,500 a year or something like that. And these other I'm selling this other thing that costs $4,000 a month. So of course I looked into it, and I thought, wow, he has almost as many features as this really expensive thing. NextOpia was basically a disruptive type product. Because of how much value it offered. And so I talked with him and said, hey, I've got this couple clients that want me to implement this solution, send us some sample code or something we can work with. And so we implemented his solution, and his was actually pretty easy to implement. He had a couple of, when I say he, Sanjay was who I was working with at the time. He's one of the owners, I guess. And so we were able to pretty quickly implement the solution. He had sample code, the support was good. And I just told him, I was very upfront with him about where I thought his product could be improved. And anyways, fast forward 8 years later, and they've actually made all those improvements and more. So it's nice when you tell a company, you give them your input, and they actually do something about it. Especially having been in business for 10 years, I can tell you that most companies don't really do that. So we were pretty. So we've been working with NextOpia off and on for, I guess, about 8 years. So NextOpia is a third party. So if you're working with BigCommerce, you would be working with BigCommerce, you'd be working with NextOpia, and then there's certainly nothing stopping anyone from working with NextOpia directly. You could get NextOpia set up. You don't have to work with us, but we do have a special offer, and we also have a wealth of experience in working with the product. So let me just talk a little bit about what the product has to offer. These are some sort of screenshots, and then I'll give you guys like a live demo at the end. So this is like a dashboard. Once you start thinking about merchandising, especially through search, you need to start to think about what are people searching for on your website, and which search keys are returning results, and which search terms are perhaps only returning one result or returning 0 results. Because if you search for something, think about it. If you search on the website and you don't find what you're looking for because you spelled it wrong, people are sort of used to that Google-like experience. It should say, did you mean perhaps this other word? Or instead of displaying, no search results, perhaps you do some merchandising and you try to sell them something else. So paying attention to what people are looking for on your website will kind of help you figure out if, a lot of people are looking for an iPod, which I don't sell, but I happen to sell this other MP3 player. So now you can start to kind of play with what's happening with these keyword searches that are returning no results, and all of a sudden you make changes, and now people are getting results back, and then they can start to think about if they want to buy. So let me show you a little more about how that's implemented. So they have this concept called a direct hit. So what this would basically mean is if you have specific keywords that you want to cause certain SKUs to become more prevalent, this is sort of a mechanism that allows you to do that. Let me try to give you an example. So let's say that you maybe you have a warehouse and you're stocking items, and perhaps you overbought on a particular item, and this happens all the time. They call up, they say, Calvin, we've got an extra pallet of this. How do we get rid of it? And we would say, well, hey, let's do a merchandising promotion. So anytime anyone searches for keywords that are related to that product, that this product will show up in the first page of results. A lot of customers, every customer is different, right? So some customers will go through every single page of your website. They'll look at every product. They'll look at every tab, all the details. Other customers, and a lot of customers, they're simply just going to they're going to buy from the first page of results, maybe even the first couple of rows of results. So that's kind of like your prime real estate. You have to start to think of your website as like a publication, like the front page of a newspaper. There's certain zones of that are incredibly valuable because they're going to get the most attention from your viewers. And so those are the zones and in the areas, even in the catalog, where you want to display your products. And this gives you a really easy, flexible way of doing that. All right, guys. I just want to, if you're watching through YouTube, just to remind you that there's a little option there to ask questions. Should have a little to the bottom left of the YouTube window. There's a link there you can click on, and feel free to ask any questions as I'm going along. Like I said, we'll give you a live view, a live demo at the end. But if you have questions, feel free to ask. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next screen here. The promo banners. So a lot of times, this sort of played to the opening screen with the serial. So if you're wondering why is there serial on the starting screen of this guy's presentation, it's because serial is one of those sort of classic merchandising examples. You put the junk food on the bottom where the children are, eye level to the young children who will then beg their mothers to buy them that cereal. And it's done that way on purpose because it's, like we said earlier, you take the goods to the people, and you have to do a little salesmanship, and that's just an example of it. Everyone's probably heard the example of you can move products around in a store and put the diapers next to the beer, and you'll sell more beer when moms send the guys out to get diapers or whatever. So there's all these kind of examples of like merchandising or whatever. So and banners, being able to present some salesmanship to the customer with a banner. If you have a graphic designer, or you can use something like Odesk, and you can hire people to make graphics for you at very reasonable rates, and you get the banners that you need, and the customers get the products that they need because you use that salesmanship to present them with your offer. And the great thing about these banners, in getting to the whole set it and forget it concept, a lot of times these banners are promotionally or seasonally based. So, you might put your whole Christmas campaign together in the summer, and then when Christmas comes around, you go on vacation, your campaign is already going. You don't have to, you check in on it, of course, but otherwise your campaign is basically running for you, because you can set a schedule to these things as well, so that not only is it doing merchandising for you, but it's also doing merchandising based on a schedule that you set, so that things are happening when they should be happening, that you're offering the Christmas promotion when it's time to offer that promotion. So that allows you to do, it's difficult to do all of your promotion real time. If you're doing it all real time and you can't schedule it, that it makes it harder for you to manage your time. Another thing that can also be really useful when people are engaging with the search, if I go to Amazon and I search for, it happens once in a while, right? I wouldn't shop on Amazon for so long because I felt like they weren't providing the best e-commerce experience, so I just didn't shop there. And then one day, about 5 years ago, I became an Amazon addict. I even have the Prime or whatever. So now I'm buying stuff from Amazon all the time. So once in a while, you get a bad order. So an order comes in, and speaking of merchandising, I got an Amazon box with an advertisement on it yesterday. So merchandising is happening everywhere. But you get something, it's the wrong item. You go to the Amazon search and you search for contact Amazon. Well, it doesn't present books or products that say how to contact Amazon. It actually knew that you were not doing a product search, that you were in fact looking for help, that you're looking for a way to talk to someone. And so in NextOpia, we call that a redirect. So you're able to basically set up these rules that allow you to, if someone searches for, let's say that you have a redirect you're doing for a promotion, and whatever that promotion is called, someone does a search for that, you can redirect them to a landing page. If somebody says that they need to do a return, you can send them to the returns page. Or if they need customer service, you take them to the customer service page. Instead of engaging your product search catalog, which obviously is going to give them not what they're looking for. And we know that today's customer, I say they can't wait all minute, because people are in a hurry. And if they can't find what they're looking for, there are plenty of other people who are in business too, and will try to compete for that business. So we want to provide the best experience to the customer, make it super easy for them to find everything that they're looking for. We also have this concept called synonyms. One of the things that Mercado had was all these language dictionaries. So like if somebody was searching for a brown jacket, but whoever named your jacket called it a chocolate jacket, it kind of knew that brown and chocolate were synonyms, that they were similar in nature, and they could be sort of interchangeable as it pertained to search criteria. So NextOpia doesn't have any of those built in, but you can basically define those yourself. And it's pretty, I won't get into all the details because my coach has coached me not to talk too much about tech stuff in these webinars, but in any event, there is a lot of capability here in the synonyms. I just give that one basic example with the colors. And if you have this problem on your website, you'll instantly know that that would be a benefit to you. If you've ever looked at your web analytics and you see that people are bouncing off of your search page, it's really tough, because a lot of the engineering really required to have that robust search on your website really requires that next level of technical capability. And so the way that a lot of people get that is they use these sort of SaaS-based applications, right? So BigCommerce has an okay search, but NextOpia really extends it and takes it to the next level, so that it has sort of that Google feel to it. And one of the things that you'll notice once you implement a NextOpia or something like it is that your bounce off your search results page is going to decrease, meaning people are going to not leave your website as often because you provided more value to them in the search. So one of those things could be that if they misspell something, it'll offer them a spelling correction. One of those things, if you can also use it as a place to promote other products. So again, I use that analogy. If you've got an extra pallet of something that you need to get rid of, or it's costing you money sitting in the warehouse, then you can put that product, create an offer for that, and everywhere that you have opportunity or real estate, you can then inject that offer. And not having any results found is another place to extend that offer. All right, let me move to the next screen here. All right, so we also have this thing called stop words. It's not the 50 Shades of Gray kind of stop words. It's the ambiguous words. So if you sell shoes, for instance, everything on your website is a shoe. So if somebody searches for shoes, it's going to basically return everything. And that may not be, maybe you should try to encourage the user to search for something more concise. So I guess that's sort of what this is used for. And I'll show an example of that in a minute here. Depending on how NextOpia is implemented on your site, so if you're using BigCommerce, we probably would implement, there's an Ajax implementation. And so that can be implemented, and basically you can have your search page then become sort of integrated with NextOpia. And one of the things that you can do there is basically push certain SKUs to the top, and based on certain navigation patterns, and you can put all kinds of rules in there to sort of really help narrow it down. This is more of an advanced feature. This is something that if you get through the other features and you're successful with them, then this is going to be one of those next features that you're going to want to get into and start developing rules for your products, and then measuring the results and then going from there. And we have that same type of capability for doing banners. So one of the things about the search that's really nice, if you've ever, I'm sure everyone remembers one day you went to Google and all of a sudden you started getting autocomplete suggestions. As you type, it's giving you suggestions. Well, most people think that's easy, and they want it on their website. And it has gotten easier, especially with products like NextOpia, but it's not a super easy thing to implement. And so you'll notice that a lot of, out-of-the-box websites historically haven't really included it. I would say that that's beginning to change. The autocomplete is that when you start typing, you start to see previews of things that you may be looking for. This is a benefit to the customer, and it makes what you'll start to notice is that as people get used to it, that they start to become very dependent on the search. This is why I believe that all the customers that I've put on NextOpia, none of them have ever canceled it, because once those customers get addicted to it, it becomes a part of the website. It becomes a kind of a go-to for people to find the products they're looking for. The nice thing about this autocomplete, the way that they've got it set up, it has really changed over the years. I mean, they've continued to make it better. And now you have the capability of actually creating sections in here. So when you're doing a search and it's popping up with the auto results, which I'll show you in a second, you can actually kind of configure this and design it. So let me do a couple of live demos here. So just for full disclosure, these are BigCommerce websites that are using NextOpia. We did not build these websites. These are just websites listed on the NextOpia website. However, again, in a more private setting, I'd be more than happy to show you our implementations as well. So I'm going to do that example earlier. This is a shoe website. So I'm going to do a search for shoes. And you'll see that no results came up. So being that it's a shoe website and I searched for shoes and the results came back, most likely they configured that as a stop word, as a way to help people get a tighter search, more specific to what they're looking for. So let me try searching for something like open toe. Oops. Okay. Now you can see that, well, you see the powered by NextOpia. So we know that they're all in here. So, and you can start to see that it's giving me some options here of like things that these are popular searches people are looking for, but I'm just going to go ahead and go with my search and just search for that. And again, those search suggestions are important because they're kind of prioritized, like those are the search terms that make money. So those are the ones that they're going to present. They're not going to present the search terms that don't make money. And so when we say that it's merchandising on your behalf, there's kind of some intelligence happening there. It's continually reevaluating. And this is sort of that big data thing that we've all talked about for so long, right? You've been reading about it, I'm sure, online. So this sort of capability is really nice, but let's take a look at another example here. Yeah, here we go. These guys here, you can see that they've designed their autocomplete to first give you back the popular searches. Again, these are the keyword searches that are generating, conversions for them, like making them money. And down at the bottom, we're actually giving them real-world search results, real time, right out of the database. But again, I can pick one of these, or I can simply just engage a search. And I don't know this business. It's really nice that they would allow it to be listed on the NextOpia site. A lot of customers simply don't want people to know what tools they're using. But I did notice that, see how there's these two high-priced items, the first two products. I don't know this for a fact, but my guess would be that they probably placed these two here because these are high-margin items for them. That's my guess, just by looking at the ticket price and the brands that they're using. And then, so if if customers who have money and want a nice product, there's some good options here. Otherwise, they have a little something for everyone. So basically, it's being a little more thoughtful about how you're laying out the products and having some capability in your search results. I mean, I guess it goes without saying that you need to be able to narrow search results, so it does provide this narrowing as well. This is not necessarily a new thing, but this is also something that it provides. Let's see here. All right, so that's the autocomplete. I want to give you a demo of it because otherwise it kind of doesn't make sense what we're talking about. I left this quote in here actually from the last webinar we did because I liked it and because I guess planning is such an important aspect of anything you'll ever do with your business or your website. So I always like to remind people to do the planning, plan for the maintenance, plan for those things so that you have a good experience with this stuff. So we do have an offer that we're doing today. There is a setup fee to work with NextOpia. They also have, of course, a monthly fee. I'm going to give you guys my email address so that if you're interested in pricing for this NextOpia, I'll send it right over. You can certainly work with NextOpia directly. We are what you consider like a reseller or a partner. We work with BigCommerce and with NextOpia. And so we also work with AmeriCommerce if you're from that camp. But the offer is basically we waive the setup fee for NextOpia, and we provide a consultation with you and help you implement NextOpia. Because I've implemented it for some customers where they just use the search with the auto learning. That's good. They make enough money off of it. That's good enough for them. They're happy just to kind of let it be on autopilot. But we're offering this promotion because we think that if you really utilize these merchandising tools correctly and thoughtfully, that you'll get really good results from them. And it has, having been in business for 10 years, one of the things that I've learned is that the customers who make money are the ones who keep you around. So it's really just a reciprocal type thing. We know what helps people be successful because we've been a part of a lot of other successes. So we just want to try to help extend that. So my email is calvin@projectthunder.com. I just wanted to, you guys can email me if you wanted, if you have a lot of goals that you're working on and you'd like to share those with us. I would love for people to share their goals with me, ask me advice. I've worked with so many people. We have seen so many things. We'd be more than happy to share any stories or experience that we have for what you're doing. And if you have an item, if you're the winner of our contest, and I select you and you have something on your website that I can buy for $50 or less, I will buy that with my Amex card, and I will Twitter about it. So we are wrapping up. Make sure you got my email. It's calvin@projectthunder.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Calvin Luttrell. And I just wanted to say I've done a lot of training classes and things like that. Usually you get to see people, see their faces and such. So I know that we didn't meet in person, but I like this quote about when you meet anyone, remember it is a holy encounter. It's from A Course in Miracles. So this will conclude the webinar. We're going to skip next week, and the following week we'll be doing another webinar. So check back and talk to us then. Thanks so much.